The guy who I just respect so much, love his intellect and knowledge when it comes to the NFL, but more so the financial aspect of it from the executive side of it. He's the host of the Business of Sports podcast, former NFL executive, my guy, Andrew Brandt, joining the Rich Eisen Show. Andrew, so much to get to with you, so little time, but just sort of help me out here because the NFL has this. We have training camps, and then guys hold in, they hold out, and we have the Matthew Judon trade, which happened yesterday between the Patriots and the Atlanta Falcons. Now, I believe he started with a hold in. Then he was withholding his services, but yet was forced to practice. Then it was a distraction. And finally, the Patriots just said, you know what? We're going to trade Matthew Judon to the Atlanta Falcons. The trade goes down, but then I said, there's the next step to it, Andrew. They don't have the contract that he was looking for in New England. When does that come about? What are those discussions like?
Yeah, good to be with you as always, Kirk. There's 3 of these going on in the NFL right now. Brandon Aiyuk, Hassan Reddick, and Matthew Judon. These are all going on right now. And you mentioned it. When you acquire a player in the last year of his contract, it's important to have a 2-part transaction. 1, the trade compensation going back to the team. 2, a conversation with the agent, negotiation to make sure that player's not coming with only 16 games left on the contract. Let's go to Reddick. Reddick was acquired by the Jets from the Eagles for a 3rd-round pick that could go with a 2nd with performance levels. There was no new contract. We don't know what the discussions were between Hassan Reddick and the New York Jets, but it seems like the Jets feel there was some kind of discussion like, yeah, I'll be fine with the new contract. Come on, at the same contract, come on in. And from Rick's point of view, well, I need a new contract, and there's no new contract. What we have now is, in the words of the movie Cool Hand Luke, a failure to communicate. There'll be no new contract, and we have a problem with the Jets and Hassan Reddick, who have paid a 3rd-round pick. The exact same thing goes on with Matthew Judon and the Falcons. They acquire a player for a 3rd-round pick, same position, same draft compensation, but no new contract. I would think, Kirk, that the Patriots have learned the lesson from the Jets in their division that they're going to get a new contract. Now, reports are it has not been done, but perhaps this is on the way. But you understand what's going on here. If you're giving up a 3rd-round pick, that's fine for a pass rusher. That's great. But is it only for 16 games? That's not as valuable as giving up a 3rd-round pick for multiple years of performance. So this is really interesting here that these transactions, part 2, have not been done with both Reddick and Judon.
You know, Andrew, I would ask you, what is the conversation like, though, between team, agent, and maybe even player? Because we're talking about guys who are either at that 30-year-old mark, in the case of Judon, 32. What is that number for a player like this? We're talking about some of these guys who had great careers at early part in their 20s, but we know there is a dip and decline in their play. Look, last year, Matthew Judon only had 4 sacks for the New England Patriots. Does that come into a factor of what the contract looks like? And does that keep the dollar amount down? Because the long-term guarantee won't be there.
Yeah, I think it does. But I think more than that, it keeps like you said, the future guarantee down. So a guy like Judon, first of all, the process is Terry Fontenot, the general manager of the Falcons, will call Elliott Wolf of the Patriots, and they'll talk. And they'll say, well, yeah, we want to do something, and we're going to be in this range. But first, I would hope the Falcons have said, first, we want to contact his agent. So let's talk about that. And then we'll revisit the trade terms. Now, when you get into contract discussions for an older player, the issue becomes length, guarantee, and early money up front. So when you look at pass rushers, oh my God, Kirk, these are the 2nd highest paid position in the NFL compared to right behind quarterbacks. They're making 26, 27, 28, 30, $31 million a year for a player like Nick Bosa. So defensive linemen are a premium position. So what are you going to pay? Now, if he was 24 years old, yeah, you're looking at that market, but as 32-year-old looking at a different market. So is it going to be $18 million a year, $20 million a year? Is it going to be a 1-year deal, 2-year deal? 2-year extension. That's what you have to look at with an older player. As I started saying, I hope for the Falcons' sake, this is not something they're starting right now, that this was done during the trade negotiations with the Patriots,
Right.
and is almost consummated. Otherwise, they may have a New York Jets Hassan Reddick issue on their hands.
He's the host of the Business of Sports podcast, former NFL executive Andrew Brandt, joining the Rich Eisen Show with Kirk Morrison here, filling in for Rich. I would say this now, Andrew Brandt, when it comes to some of these other players who are quote unquote holding in, CeeDee Lamb, I guess, holding out now with his services, but Jamar Chase, CeeDee Lamb, wide receivers, and we saw this explosion in the wide receiver market, especially this year. And I know I've got a hard time seeing, and no offense to Jerry Jeudy, but I look at the resumes of CeeDee Lamb and Jamar Chase. I'm like, this dude got paid. Come on, man. What about me? How do these things get fixed? I mean, how will these be solved before the season starts? Because I feel like this is what's dominating the Cowboys training camp. People say it's not a distraction, but it is a distraction if you don't see that player out there on the field and expect them to be ready by week 1.
Yeah, let's talk the difference in definitions first, Kirk. In my day, I negotiated contracts for the Packers for 10 years. We never really dealt with a hold in. That's a different situation, relatively new. It started a few years ago with Jalen Ramsey and the Jacksonville Jaguars kind of being there, but not really being there,
Right.
Being a pain in the you-know-what to management where they had to do something. That strategy seems to be working. And in my experience, we worried not a lot about holdouts. Out of mind, out of sight, out of mind. Well, they'll be here at some point. You worry about hold-ins because that can be infectious in a negative way. That can be contagious to younger players, bad attitude within the team. So that's why the strategies of Chase perhaps and Aiyuk perhaps may be more successful than the holdout. In the case of Lamb, he's negotiating. That's the good news. So if we believe what we read about, it's really just between a $30 million a year number or a $32 million a year number, which is up by Justin Jefferson, whether he's going to be the number 1 guy, the number 2 guy, the number 3 guy, that'll get done. The more, when we stay with Dallas for a minute, Prescott, it just seems to me that they're going to ride it out with Prescott.
Wow.
That they're just going to ride it out with Prescott. Like, he's got 1 year left. He's got no tag. He's going to be a free agent. They either sign him for huge money next year or he makes even bigger money for somewhere else. They didn't fire Mike McCarthy after that game. So we'll see where that goes.
Andrew, like, these quarterbacks got their deals done quickly, right? Matthew Stafford, Jordan Love, Tua Tagovailoa, they got their deals done before they even took a snap in training camp. Why were these deals able to get done so quickly, and yet we have all of these lingering other contracts amongst other skill position players?
Yeah, I mean, what's happened with the quarterback position is really unique, where if you're coming up the next guy, you're going to make this market. This market is 50 plus million a year. And the discussion, Kirk, about how quote unquote good they are, or how long they had a good season last year, or Tua's got injury issues, or Tua's up and down, it's really irrelevant. It's like, you're the next guy, you're making 50 million a year, or just don't do a deal like Prescott. Like, if Jordan Love was going to get a deal, that's what he was going to get. There's no agent out there for a young ascending quarterback that's going to say, you know what, we'll play for 30, 35 million a year, even though that's an incredible number, because that's where we are with quarterbacks. Let's lose the discussion of, is this guy quote unquote better than others? Is he better than Trevor Lawrence and Joe Burrow and Justin Herbert and Jalen Hurts? What really is the issue is timing and marketplace. Are these guys the next guy, and what's the market? And it's why I keep saying it, Dak Prescott's the most leverage in the league, because either he gets 60 million now or he gets 65 million next year. So it's an extraordinary place to be with timing and marketplace.
Andrew, I'm gonna get you out of here on this one. It's not a yes or no answer really, because honestly, I just want to get your opinion. Who gets the deal done first? Is it CeeDee Lamb or is it Brandy Aiyuk? Who has a deal in place first?
I'm going to say Aiyuk.
Okay.
But I don't know if it's going to be a deal with the 49ers or deal with the Steelers.
Right.
But I do think that resolves first because you know my saying, Kirk, deadline spur action.
Yes,
There's
you
no
do.
deadline
Yeah.
with CeeDee Lamb.
Right.
The deadline is start of the season, basically. And Jerry Jones is known to just not really get serious until the deadline. So Aiyuk first, then Lamb.
Yeah. No urgency from Mr. Jerry Jones. He's already said. Hey, Andrew, man, appreciate the time as always. And yeah, I'll be following everything that you do always. Like you said, follow the money like I always do. Appreciate it, Andrew.
Appreciate it, Kirk. Talk to you soon.
Catch the Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.